Let me give you a number. 1980. Average testosterone in an adult male, somewhere between 600 and 700 nanograms per deciliter. You know what that number looks like today in 2026? 250, maybe 300 if you're lucky. That is not aging. That is not genetics. That is a collapse. And nobody is being straight with you about why it is happening, or more importantly, exactly what you can do about it starting today. I am Dr. Aris Thorne. I have spent the last 22 years studying hormonal biology, evolutionary physiology, and the very real gap between how human males are designed to function and how modern life is actually making them function. What we are going to cover in the next several minutes is not a supplement stack. It is not a biohacking shortcut. It is a complete, evidence-grounded system for rebuilding the hormonal architecture your body was born to run on. Low energy by noon, brain fog that won't clear, strength that keeps walking out the door no matter how hard you train. If you are sitting there nodding right now, this video is for you. Stay until the end, because what I share in the mindset section alone has changed the trajectory of men I have personally worked with for years. The problem is not you. The system was designed against you. Let's dismantle it. Modern life makes us soft. Primal movement makes us unbreakable. We don't just lift weight, we reclaim our nature. The Silverback Standard, Primal Unleashed. The Primal Blueprint and Modern Decline. In the wild, the silverback gorilla is not simply the biggest animal. He is the most hormonally calibrated animal in his entire social structure. His testosterone relative to body mass is extraordinary. His cortisol, the stress hormone that eats muscle and destroys androgen output, is remarkably controlled. He moves constantly. He eats whole, nutrient-dense food. He sleeps when it is dark. He does not stare at artificial light until 1 a.m. He does not sit in a chair for 10 hours processing digital anxiety, and his body rewards him with absolute biological authority. That is the evolutionary archetype. That is what your endocrine system was mapped to express. And then civilization happened. Here is what the data is actually showing us right now in 2026. The average 35-year-old male today has the hormonal profile of a 55-year-old male from 1990. That generational collapse in testosterone has been confirmed across multiple longitudinal studies. Researchers are pointing to a very specific cluster of environmental pressures as the primary drivers: endocrine disruption, chronic stress dysregulation, sedentary mechanical loading, and catastrophically poor sleep architecture. These are not abstract threats. They are the 4 pillars of hormonal destruction, and every single one of them is reversible once you understand the biological levers underneath them. That is exactly what we are mapping out today, pillar by pillar. The modern life did not ask your biology for permission before it began dismantling it, which means the rebuilding process requires deliberate, systematic, and uncompromising action, not hacks, architecture. And it starts, surprisingly, not in the gym, but on your plate. Let me show you exactly what the endocrine system actually needs to run at full output. The nutrition pillar of the alpha. I know what it actually feels like to drag yourself through a 3 p.m. meeting when your brain stopped working at noon. I know the frustration of training hard for months and watching nothing change. That is not weakness. That is a system running on the wrong fuel, and that is completely fixable, starting today. This is where I lose half the fitness world immediately, because the fitness world still largely talks about calories in and calories out, as if the human endocrine system is a bank account. It is not. It is a chemical factory, and chemical factories need specific raw materials to produce specific outputs.
Testosterone is a steroid hormone, meaning, and this is critical, it is manufactured from cholesterol, not despite fat, from cholesterol specifically. The men who have been eating low-fat diets for a decade because someone told them fat was dangerous, they have handed their endocrine system a factory floor with no raw materials and wondered why production collapsed. You want higher testosterone? You need to eat quality fat. Full stop. Pasture-raised eggs, grass-fed tallow beef tallow, cold water fatty fish, whole dairy from properly raised animals, raw nuts, Brazil nuts in particular, because a single handful delivers your entire daily requirement of selenium, which is the critical cofactor in the conversion of thyroid hormones that regulate the entire metabolic environment in which testosterone operates. Beyond fat, and this is where I want to spend a moment because it is underrepresented in almost every conversation, micronutrient density is your foundation. Zinc, magnesium, vitamin D3 paired with K2, boron. These are the enzymatic cofactors in hormonal catalysts without which the entire testosterone synthesis cascade slows or stops, regardless of how many other variables you optimize. The concept I call primal foods is simple. Before industrial agriculture existed, males in peak physical condition ate what was local, seasonal, whole, and nutrient-dense by necessity. Organ meats, wild game, root vegetables, fermented foods, sea vegetables. These are not trendy superfoods. They are the original human operating system fuel. When you begin rebuilding around these foods, eliminating processed seed oils, removing ultra-processed carbohydrates that chronically spike insulin, your insulin sensitivity recovers. Your liver begins clearing estrogen metabolites more efficiently, and within 60 to 90 days, clinical studies consistently show measurable increases in free testosterone levels. Stop counting calories. Start accounting for hormones. Every meal either funds your biological authority or it taxes it. The nutrition piece is not about restriction, it's about precision. Feed the factory the right materials and the factory runs. Now let's talk about what you do with that fuel, because the type of training you choose is either amplifying your hormonal output or silently canceling it. Functional strength and hormonal spikes. I want you to picture two training protocols. The first one, 45 minutes of machine isolation work, bicep curls, cable flies, leg press, clean, safe, comfortable, Instagram-ready pump at the end. The second one, 20 minutes of compound, multi-joint explosive movement, deadlifts, heavy squats, loaded carries, broad jumps, sprints. Both of those men are going to the gym. One of them is triggering a systemic hormonal response. The other one is not. Compound movements, specifically those that recruit large muscle mass across multiple joint systems, produce acute surges of testosterone and growth hormone that isolation work simply does not replicate. The research here is consistent and has been replicated across dozens of peer-reviewed studies. Squats and deadlifts performed at high relative intensity produce a post-exercise testosterone spike that can last 4 to 6 hours.
Sprinting triggers growth hormone release at a rate that exceeds even some pharmaceutical interventions. These are not marginal differences. They are categorical ones. But here is what most people get wrong about training for hormonal optimization. And it is the part that quietly destroys everything. They train too much. They train too often. They never adequately recover. And in doing so, they keep cortisol elevated, suppress the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the HPG axis, which is the hormonal command chain that controls testosterone production, and then wonder why they are perpetually exhausted despite training 6 days a week. 3 days, heavy compound, full recovery. That is the entire formula. Not 6 days, not 2-a-days. 3 days and real rest. That's it. Simple is not the same as easy, but simple is what works. Recovery is not a reward for working hard. Recovery is where the hormonal signal gets processed and expressed. If you are not building structured recovery protocols, specific nutrition timing post-training, controlled cool-down of the sympathetic nervous system, and strategic deload weeks, then you are doing biological construction work without ever letting the concrete cure. The body does not get stronger during training. It gets stronger during recovery. Train like a predator. Recover like a king. 3 to 4 days of heavy explosive compound work per week with true recovery built in will outproduce 6 days of moderate effort in almost every hormonal metric we can measure. This is not my opinion. This is exercise endocrinology. But even if you nail nutrition and training completely, there is a layer of hormonal suppression most men never address because it is invisible. It's inside their homes. That's what we're dismantling next. The silent impact of environment and sleep. This section is the one that surprises people most, because you can nail nutrition, you can train with precision, you can manage stress, and you can still have suppressed testosterone if you have not addressed what I call the chemical environment audit. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, are compounds that directly interfere with hormone synthesis, binding, and metabolism. They're in plastics, they're in conventional grooming products, they're in synthetic fragrances, they're in the non-stick coating on the pan you cooked your pasture-raised eggs in this morning. Bisphenols, phthalates, parabens, triclosan. These compounds mimic estrogen at the receptor level or directly suppress testosterone synthesis, and chronic low-level exposure, meaning daily exposure to ordinary household products, is now documented to meaningfully alter the male hormonal profile over time. The practical protocol here is not complicated, but it requires commitment. Switch to glass or stainless steel for food storage and cooking. Audit your grooming products, fragrance, shampoo, deodorant, and replace synthetic options with clean alternatives. Filter your drinking water. Eat organic where the endocrine disruption risk in conventional produce is highest. Now, sleep. I want to give this the gravity it deserves because in my clinical work, nothing, not nutrition, not training, not supplementation, produces faster measurable improvements in testosterone levels than correcting sleep architecture. Nothing. Between the hours of approximately 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., in deep, consolidated dark room sleep, the anterior pituitary releases the majority of its nightly growth hormone, and the HPG axis undergoes the bulk of its testosterone restorative signaling. Miss that window chronically, which most modern men do, and you are financially undermining your own hormonal bank account every single night. The practical application: black out your sleeping environment completely. Eliminate all light sources, including device standby LEDs. Drop room temperature to between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Core body temperature drop is a critical signal for deep sleep initiation. Begin cutting blue light exposure 2 hours before bed, not because it sounds nice, but because blue light in the 460 to 480 nanometer range directly suppresses melatonin secretion and delays the sleep architecture cycle your hormones depend on. Every night of poor sleep is a night your body skips its most powerful natural testosterone protocol. No supplement on Earth compensates for what you lose in those hours. You have cleaned up the physical environment, you have rebuilt the fuel system, you have trained with purpose and recovered with intention. Now we go to the deepest lever of all, the one that most programs never touch, and the one that changes everything when you finally do. Mindset and social hierarchy psychology. Everything we have covered so far, the nutrition, the training, the sleep, the environmental cleanup, those are inputs, physical inputs that feed a biological process. But there's a dimension of testosterone optimization that most people in this space completely skip over because it sounds too philosophical. It's not philosophical, it's neurochemistry. In 1998, researchers documented what became known as the winner effect in competitive primates.
When a male wins a competitive encounter, physical or social, his testosterone rises. When he loses, or more critically, when he is chronically in a state of perceived low status, his testosterone falls and his cortisol rises. This is not metaphorical. It's measured, reproducible, and it's been demonstrated in human males across athletic competitions, negotiations, academic challenges, and social dominance contexts. What this means practically is that your psychological environment is a direct input to your hormonal environment. The stories you tell yourself about your own status, whether you're winning in life, whether you're advancing, whether you're respected, are biochemically shaping the hormonal output of your endocrine system. Chronic stress, the kind that comes from financial pressure, relational conflict, career stagnation, social isolation, keeps the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, in a state of sustained activation. Cortisol floods the system, and cortisol and testosterone operate in direct biochemical opposition. Every sustained cortisol signal is a vote against testosterone production. Your body cannot be in survival mode and apex predator mode at the same time. This is why the silverback doesn't rage, he doesn't react, he doesn't lose control. He commands from stillness. That calm authority is not a personality style, it's a biological state, and it's one you can deliberately cultivate. The practices that move the needle here are not soft. Cold exposure, specifically deliberate cold immersion in the 50 to 60 degree range for 2 to 3 minutes, produces a measurable cortisol clearance response and increases baseline norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter deeply correlated with drive, focus, and androgen receptor sensitivity. Controlled exhale extended breathwork activates the parasympathetic system and lowers basal cortisol, and structured challenges, consistently placing yourself in situations where you can demonstrate competence and advance, create a continuous biological winning signal.
Stack small wins. Finish what you start. Compete at something in some arena regularly. Build physical capability that is visible and felt. These are not self-help platitudes. They are triggers for an ancient biological reward system that your body is waiting to activate. The silverback does not perform dominance. He inhabits it. That inhabitation begins in biology, and biology responds to how you choose to live every single day. Let me be direct with you about something before I let you go. The 5 pillars we covered today: hormonal nutrition, explosive compound training, environmental cleanup, sleep architecture, and mindset dominance, none of them are new. The scientific literature supporting each one has existed for decades. The problem has never been access to this information. The problem is that modern life actively profits from you not implementing it. Processed food industries, pharmaceutical convenience culture, social media systems engineered to keep you reactive and cortisol-driven. They are not neutral. They have a direction. And that direction is away from the man your biology intended you to become. That is what Primal Unleash exists to counter. Not with anger, not with panic, with precision. Pick one pillar from today and implement it this week, not all 5. 1. Bring full commitment to that one change. Let it compound for 3 weeks, then add the next. That is how biological change actually works. That is how the silverback is built. Modern life makes us soft. Primal living makes us unbreakable. We don't just lift weight, we reclaim our nature. I am Dr. Aris Thorne. If this gave you something real today, put it in the comments. Tell me which pillar you are starting with. I read every one. And if you are new here, subscribe now, because what we are building on this channel is not content, it is a standard, the Silverback Standard.